ladies and gentlemen. This is Jeff Rains coming to you again with Foundation of Civilization, Our Changing World. What's been happening around the world this week? Another lots of things. Another exciting week. How has Russia responded to the U.S. president's demands to end the Ukraine war? Who's motivated NATO nations to increase their military spending? What flare-ups has the U.S. president had this week? And with whom? And are things unfolding for prosecution of former intelligence and FBI officials? Like I always say, the world runs on energy, and it requires energy to run, and we usually use fossil fuels, oil in this case, which is where I start. The West Texas Intermediate crude ended this week at $67.34 a barrel. Brent ended the week at $69.28, and OPEC baskets ended the week at $69.94. What should be the foundation of our currencies, gold, and it actually tends to be, but we don't like to admit that, and people don't like to. They don't like to address it and connect it. Well, I do. Gold ended the week at $3,350.53. Silver ended the week at $38.22. The Baltic Dry Goods Exchange Index ended the week at $2,052, and that is a measure of how well trade is being conducted. And then this is up significantly over the past couple of weeks. It's been sitting at about $1,400 to $1,600. And so going up $400 in a week is actually a pretty good growth. It's a pretty good indicator that people are feeling better about conducting trade. And the bond market, I keep watching the bond market because bonds are larger than the stock market, and they are usually an indicator of how governments are doing with monetary policy. So the U.S. bond ended the week at 4.423%. The UK bond ended the week at 4.6789%. And the Japanese bond ended the week at 1.5329%. An indication of where things are, where conflicts are being conducted. Tends to be reflected in our military deployments, and especially where our ISR assets are. This week, and quite a few ISR flights have been conducted over the past several years over the United States, and a lot of them they continue to be along the southern border. And over the past few weeks, we've had a lot on the southeastern U.S. coast, and even kind of into the mid-Atlantic area. This week, we've had quite a few in the middle of the country. They also continue to be looking at the western mountains and around the Wyoming area. As far as our Navy goes, of the 293 ships, which is up one from last week, 101 are deployed, which is significantly more than we had, and 70 are underway. The USS Abraham Lincoln was in San Diego. The Carl Vinson is operating in the Indian Ocean. The Dwight D. Eisenhower is in port in Norfolk, Virginia. The George H.W. Bush is in port in Norfolk, Virginia also. The last report that I had. The USS George Washington is operating in the Timor Sea, which is an interesting change of events. The USS Gerald R. Ford departed Norfolk, Virginia for a regularly scheduled deployment. No word on the USS Stennis. The reports I had were several years old, so I don't want to put out any information about its whereabouts at the moment. The Nimitz is operating in the Arabian Sea. The Harry Truman remains in Norfolk. The USS Ronald Reagan is last report showing at Bremerton, Washington. The USS America is operating in the Coral Sea and will participate in exercise Talisman Sabre. The USS Tripoli is in Sasebo, Japan. USS Wasp is in port in Spain. Last report I had. And the USS Iwo Jima returned to Norfolk, Virginia. Now, if you're getting any decent information, or if you get any decent information from me, I appreciate a like, share, and subscribe. That helps me grow the channel, which I also need to make a note that this week I broke 10,000 subscribers. Thank you very much for subscribing to my channel. I appreciate it. It helps me with my addiction, and hopefully one day I will get paid for my addiction. My addiction being bringing news to people. Cutting through the garbage and bringing the news that people really need to hear and see. In the European markets, the DAX ended the week at 24,289.51. The FTSE ended at 8,989.91. The CAC 40 was at 7,822.77. The IBEX ended the week at 13,989.00. This week, the U.S. president threatened severe tariffs unless a peace deal is reached within 50 days. And he provided few details about how that was supposed to be implemented. He described them as secondary tariffs. Now, unfortunately, this is not a strong position. You're trying to threaten the friends of our enemies. That's actually kind of a weak move, but at the moment, I believe it's the only move that we have, aside from actually engaging in warfare with Russia directly, and which is something that I don't approve of. And I asked the question, how did Russia respond to this demand? And I quote the Russian officials: "We don't care." And then on Tuesday, Russia decided to, this past week, they decided to drop quite a few bombs on, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Dobropilya, which is about 20 miles from the front line. And actually, one of the bombs that they dropped was an 1,100-pound bomb, 500 kilograms, which is quite big. The U.S. president continues to get very frustrated with the Russian negotiations, and despite his claims of being able to end the war very quickly, it has not gone well. I believe most of the problem continues to reside with the military-industrial complex trying to make more money off of it, and that if you could get them out of it, it never would have happened. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians, maybe millions of Ukrainians would be alive, and millions of Russians would still be alive. Now, this week, Ukrainian President Zelensky reorganized his staff, his government, in an attempt to reinvigorate his government. This domestic experts believe that the reshuffling is just moving loyalists around so that he can maintain control over the powerful cabinet posts, and it won't bring about any necessary change. And the bigger problem is that Ukrainians are running out of people to send to the front lines to get killed. Now, as this war has gone on, the finances of Russia has been suffering, and it looks like Russia may be preparing for a bailout of their banking system. There are a number of non-performing loans the number of non-performing loans is rising, and capitalization is becoming into question. They don't know if the banking system can continue to handle the war and the drag on the economy. Now, I want to note also that the U.S. president has given NATO countries a lot of grief about their failures to spend as they agreed to a 5% of their GDP. They've been doing this for decades, and they've relied on the defense of the United States, mostly through deterrence against years ago it was the Eastern Bloc, now primarily Russia and China. Now NATO countries, They're screaming because they have to pay for more defense instead of the people are complaining of these countries that they're not paying for schools and hospitals, but the legislatures are changing the spending and making the changes anyway. This is not so much that because the people want to spend money on bombs and bullets, obviously, but because the country's leaders know that war with Russia is likely to occur in the next few years, and their defense industry is not prepared to support themselves in a war. There are also likely to be problems with people being prepared physically and mentally to become soldiers, but that's another matter for another time. As suspected, for years, intelligence and law enforcement agencies in the United Kingdom have had access to secret funding sources. This week, it was exposed in the United Kingdom that a fund, the National Security Strategic Investment Fund, has ties to British intelligence agencies like GCHQ, MI5, and MI6. Over in Asia, the Nikkei ended the week at 39,789.99. The SSE index ended the week at 3,535.54. Hang Seng ended the week at 24,813.46. The BSE Sensex ended the week at 81,773.01. The Nifty 50 ended the week at 24,967.40. A number of U.S. businessmen are concerned about the slowing Chinese economy and the imposing tariffs. A survey that's been conducted has noted that weak domestic demand and overcapacity in local industries are eroding profitability for investors, especially Americans. And I quote from the AP article, businesses in China are less profitable now than they were years ago, but risks, including reputational risk, regulatory risk, and political risk, are increasing, end quote. And this was from Sean Stein, the president of the U.S.-China Business Council. That suggests to me that you're going to see a lot less investment in China in the near future. Now, one group of people that are continuing to invest in China are, of course, Russia, with their military ties. And this is coming from an article called The Diplomat. And I quote from the article. Scrutiny of Sino-Russian military cooperation in recent years, however, reveals that there are several military technical cooperation channels and projects, trade of arms and dual-use items, military defense, submarine and helicopter development that could be strengthened following their proclamation effort to deepen cooperation. Advances in areas have the potential to significantly alter the balance of capabilities in the U.S.-China-Russia strategic triangle. Over the recent period of time, China has been importing fewer and fewer heavy equipment, such as aircraft engines and naval weapons from Russia. And by 2024, they have been manufacturing themselves. They've engaged in signed agreements so that they can get the technical aspects and the technical know-how from Russia and do it themselves. Myanmar, over in Southeast Asia, Myanmar has been mired in a civil war for a while now, and the Myanmar's military recently this week recaptured a strategic gateway town from rebel forces after nearly a year of the rebels controlling the area. This was on Thursday, which makes a rare turnaround in the country's northeast, where an alliance of ethnic militias seized a large swath of territory in an offensive that began late in 2023. I'm probably going to butcher this, the name of this town, but it's Nongikoa. Sits on a major highway trading route linking central Myanmar to China. and it had been under the control of the Tang National Liberation Army, the TNLA, and a group in the Three Brotherhood Alliance since July of last year. In the Middle East, again, we've had quite a few things and lots of devastation in Gaza. First in Syria, though, earlier this week, Syrian forces attacked Israel-backed Druze militias, and Syria claimed to retake the town of Sweida. Then on Wednesday, Israel launched an air attack against Syrian Defense Ministry. Also this week, it was reported that Israeli settlers attacked Christian churches in the West Bank of Israel, which is a really stupid maneuver since a lot of Christian churches support Israel and returning that area to the descendants of the Israeli tribes, the tribes of Israel. Now, the fighting in Syria was interesting. After the attack on the defense ministry, the Druze militias and the government forces came to an agreement, to a ceasefire. There are many reports coming out now that the food situation in Gaza is getting very serious, and many Gazans are entering what they call stage 4 starvation, and this is where the body will not be able to recover. There will be serious damage to the Gazans. Israel is holding up food deliveries, but a lot of the critics of Israel continue to ignore that Egypt also has a border with Gaza, and they are failing to provide relief. Also, they haven't opened up their gates to the Gazans, and they are not sending food aid either. Additionally, there have been attacks on Gaza Palestinians, and this week I believe there were 20 that were killed. Over in Iran, we are seeing more explosions. We don't know if they are associated with the conflict with Israel or not, and I am quoting from the Long War Journal. Israel and Iran indirectly agreed to a ceasefire on June 24th, yet a wave of explosions and sudden death of an IRGC general over the past week have disturbed the relative calm in Iran. The regime has attributed every explosive incident to gas leaks, despite evidence contradicting these claims. Israel has remained silent on these events, but likely maintains intelligence superiority and the capacity to conduct operations in Iran. I'm certain that Israel has a lot of intelligence operatives operating in Iran. So these explosions, the Iranian government doesn't want to admit that they don't have control over their own country. So are they gas leaks, or are they attacks by Israel? Well, who knows? In Africa, in Burkina Faso, the government has terminated the Independent National Electoral Commission. And I quote from the AP article, "Since taking power in 2022 coup, West African countries' military leaders have launched sweeping reforms, including postponing elections that were expected to restore civilian rule. The government passed a law late Wednesday abolishing the Independent National Electoral Commission, which is responsible for organizing elections, citing its high cost." I have high hopes for the Sahel, the region south of the Saharan Desert, and I'm interested to see how things work out in Burkina Faso, but who knows? And this is certainly not going to help things. In Sudan, there's been a humanitarian crisis after tensions between the army and its rival paramilitary Rapid Response Forces, or RSF, escalated into fighting in April 2023. Violence has killed at least 40,000 people and created one of the world's worst displacement and hunger crises, according to humanitarian organizations. On Thursday, UN Human Rights Office confirmed that since July 10th, the RSF has killed at least 60 civilians in the town of Bara, while civilian society groups reported 300 people were killed, the office said. Ethiopia's intelligence and security services on Tuesday announced that it has arrested 82 suspects linked to ISIS. In a statement sent to state-owned media, NISS claims that these people arrested were recruited for a terrorist mission in Ethiopia. They were from Somalia, the Somalia wing of ISIS. There's been a counter-terrorist operation focusing on the group, which allegedly operated in Puntland, which is part of Somalia, which intends to expand into other countries, including Ethiopia. In the United States, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the week at 44,319.54. S&P ended the week down at S&P ended the week at 6,296.35. The Nasdaq ended the week at 24,894.78. Flooding continues across the United States, but it's been expanded quite a bit into the Ohio River Valley, Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Texas, quite a few places. Texas, of course, has been was the site of the devastation along the Guadalupe River. A firebomber was arrested in Michigan. He attempted to bomb the GOP headquarters in Arkan. The device failed to ignite, and the firebomber was later picked up. Just last night, Friday night, a car plowed into a crowd attempting to enter a nightclub. 30 people were injured, 23 were transported to hospitals. The driver was attacked by the crowd, and he was found to have a gunshot wound, but it's unclear if he was shot before or after the incident. In an article from the Washington Examiner, it is noted that left-wing terrorism has returned. From the 1880s to the 1920s, anarchist terrorism, often associated with immigrants, claimed hundreds of lives between shootings, bombings, including President William McKinley and numerous lesser politicians. And even this was also there was also an unsolved bombing on Wall Street, killed 30 people and wounded hundreds. History repeated in the 1960s with another American left-wing wave of terror born out of the anti-Vietnam War protest, and that targeted military federal facilities and nationwide, dragging painfully into the 1980s. And the last big attack was a bombing of Congress in 1983. Miraculously, no one was killed. This week, though, over recent weeks, many people have been attacking federal agents. One of the left-wingers who's engaged in violence has been caught this week. Benjamin Song, who shot an ICE agent, hit him in the neck, was captured in the Dallas area on the 15th of July this week. I noted that this week the U.S. president has been struggling with his base. When he ran, he offered the opportunity. He agreed that he would release the client list of Jeffrey Epstein. However, this week he pushed back on that, and he caught a lot of heat from his base. Now, the reason why the Epstein list and the P. Diddy list are important is because these people are making decisions for us. The people that are on those lists, they're burdening our children with soul-crushing debt. They are driving up costs, and they're rewarding their friends and punishing anybody who doesn't support them. Actually, they're just punishing anybody who isn't part of the crowd. So these lists are very important. Now, I did hear some wrangling, that maybe this was a play by the president to get people to push him to release the list. I don't know for certain, but that could be the case. It would be an interesting move if they did that, but we'll see. Now, the later this week, he pushed the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to release the reports that they had so that they could release the grand jury testimony, anything that was pertinent. We'll see where it goes, but like I said, these lists are important, and it's important for transparency in our government to get them out. I don't think they've been released because the people who control the list are still able to put pressure on the people on the list. The immigrant raids have continued this week. California, at a raid at a California growing facility for marijuana, there were 360 arrests, and one person that they attempted to arrest fell from a building and subsequently died of his injuries a few days later. Some of the people that were found at the facility were children. So this facility was violating child labor laws, which many of the critics are complaining that they claim to support child labor laws. Now, in response to the immigrant raids, there has been an amnesty bill that's been proposed. And this is for what they call the Dignity Act, for people to grant people legal status for people who work in fields that are not favored by U.S. citizens. It is the eligible applicants would be able to pass a criminal background check, pay taxes, submit $7,000 in restitution over the duration of a 7-year program. And upon completion, they would be able to, they'd have a legal status in the United States. Now, make no mistake that this will be abused. This will be, and mind you, I have great sympathy for those people who want to come here and be a part of our community. I just think that we need to expand the visa program. We need to actually vet people that come here, and they need to show they're here, they can support themselves, and they're not part of criminal organizations. In fact, I would expand not just the visa program, but the immigration. It's currently at I think 1 million or 1.1 million. Increase that to 1.5, maybe 2 million people, because apparently Americans don't want to have children anyway. So we'll bring new ones in, but we need to do a better job of selling why it's important to be here and why it's important to follow laws. And part of the reason why they want to be here is because they recognize the benefit that they get here. Now, got 2 more stories, and I've got way too much material here. This week, a rescission bill was passed. Now, the amount of money in the rescission bill is extremely minor, but this is a massive win for the president. Many people have noted that the amount of money is extremely small. It defunds NPR and PBS, which they've been publicly funded leftist news sites for quite a while. And as a note, we haven't had a rescission bill since the 90s. But the most important part of the defunding is that U.S. aid is losing its money. U.S. aid was the CIA's funding mechanism to promote terror around the world. They were conducting their own foreign policy, and that is the biggest problem that we've had. They would go out and make deals with people, and contrary to what the president and Congress wanted. It is likely that if U.S. aid was not funding terror around the world, we wouldn't have any, or we'd have very little, if any. Some of the targets of these terror groups were U.S. soldiers. So when you see the soldiers to help, or the advertisements to help U.S. soldiers that have been injured, yeah, it was U.S. aid funneling money to them to get that to happen. I noted earlier that in Syria we have the slaughter of thousands of minorities, including Alawite, Christians, and Druze. That's ongoing, direct result of money laundered through U.S. aid. Afghanistan, the Taliban has, so far, as far as we can tell, they got $3.4 billion through the UN. $1 billion was laundered to Hamas, which was a designated terror group. And they used that money to murder civilians, Israeli civilians. Some of those civilians were Arabs. Many of them were Muslim also. The biggest program funded through USAID, the biggest problem program funded through USAID, was the PREDICT program, which we learned this week, or last week. They were discovering bat viruses, where the virus, and then the viruses were shipped to Wuhan, where they were weaponized, and one of them got out and killed 1 million people in the United States and 7 million people worldwide. It's possible if we didn't have USAID, and I'm just reiterating this, it is possible that if we didn't have USAID, we would not have half the destruction in the world that we see today. Now, last message that I have for you this week, and I am actually going long because there's a lot of things that have been happening. An investigation into Russian collusion has yielded quite a bit of results. The investigation was classified so people couldn't find where criminal behavior had been, people had been engaging in criminal behavior. Well, this week some of that material was uncovered, and the individuals who were conducting the investigation into Russian collusion are now being investigated. They all conspired to engage in fraud committed against the legal system, against the FISA court. That fraud continued until it was just discovered. So, the statute of limitations although it expired for some of the activities in the past, it has not expired for the conspiracy. In fact, since it was just uncovered, the timeline just starts. There's plenty of time to prosecute everybody that was involved. So that will be interesting to see, and it's again opens up and makes things more transparent into what was happening. Now, I also find it interesting. Very last note is that one of the key people in the prosecutions that was covering up the Epstein files and is actually associated with the Russia investigation, tangentially. Maureen Comey was fired this week from the DOJ. I'm kind of surprised it took this long to get there, but she's finally gone. My guess is that they are preparing to prosecute her father, and they don't want a mole in the DOJ to overhear anything that's going on. So she's gone, which is also good because she was the one who was always filing filing legal briefs to keep the Epstein and P. Diddy files secret. Which is shocking that the courts decided to side with pedophiles, but they did. So that's all I have for you this week, which is quite a bit. Unfortunately, I know that there are some things that I've missed. There are plenty of things that are going on around the world that I just don't have time to get to, although as much as I try. Thank you very much for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, I appreciate the support and the help, and I really appreciate breaking 10,000 subscribers, and look forward to talking to you guys again very soon. Much love to everybody. And like I said, like, share, and subscribe. Want to expand. I want to be able to get the right message out to you, to things to watch out for, and I will look forward to talking to you guys again here in the near future, and we'll see you very shortly. Thank you very much, and this is Jeff, over and out.